Today's guide is focused on leveling a Luminary efficiently and easily. Normally, the primary concern when leveling a support character is figuring out what to play until you are ready to make the transition to a full support. This guide is aimed to fix that. Since the Luminary is a scion, there are several ways you can level: melee, caster, ranged, with totems, and anything else that you can imagine. However, due to its simplicity, strength, and my familiarity with it, I will be leveling as a slammer for this guide. A complete POB will be provided in the description, alongside a full playthrough to the point where I make the transition to full-time support. For brevity, I will not include the passives you should work towards in the video, but they will be apparent in the POB. To begin, we'll be using Spectral Throw. This got some serious buffs some time ago, and it's arguably one of the strongest skills to begin with. Its coverage is not as good as something like Cobra Lash, but it does an insane amount of damage. It's great for clear and single target. Once you've cleared the Tidal Island, talk to Tarlay to get both Decoy Totem and Shield Charge. You'll then want to talk to Nessa and get both Chance to Bleed support and Volley support to link with your Spectral Throw. You'll also want Momentum for a Shield Charge / Leap Slam setup later, and Frost Blink for even more speed. If you don't have enough currency for everything right now, just come back after Brutus. Once you enter the lower prison, make sure to grab faster attacks from Nessa. You should be around level 8 or 9 when heading into Brutus. We don't see any significant spikes in damage for a while after this, so over-leveling won't be necessary. Talk to Targlay to get Leap Slam, and then buy Intimidating Cry from Nessa. You can also buy Vitality and Blooded Scienteer as well. After reaching Mervale's Cavern, you'll have two choices for skills. You'll have to buy them from Nessa, but Sunder is the #1 choice for Slammer leveling. If you want some safety going into Acts 5, 6, and 7, I'd recommend also picking up Earth Shatter and transitioning later. You'll also want to buy Ruthless support while you are here. Your gem setup should be Sunder with Ruthless and Chance to Bleed. The key part to dealing insane boss damage with this setup is lining up your Ruthless hits with Intimidating Cry exerts. You can keep count of your Ruthless hits by counting 1, 2, 3, or swinging, seeing if it was a Ruthless hit, and then using your Intimidating Cry to always exert your next Ruthless hit. By this point, you can technically make a swap to Leap Slam over Shield Charge, but I find myself liking Shield Charge until I get some more attack speed nodes, which we don't get until the start of Act 4. In Act 2, you'll want to help Alira. The 15 Ellie Res is very useful for gearing and can always be swapped for +1 passive point later. You'll also want to pick up Blood Rage and Seismic Cry from Yeena after completing Intruders in Black. You can also pick up Herald of Ash from Groost as a quest reward. Seismic will be used later if you plan on swapping to Earth Shatter and is not necessary to equip right now. After killing Weaver, pick up melee physical damage support from Silk and buy Close Combat from Yeena. You'll want to replace Chance to Bleed with melee Fizz, and once you have a 4-link, use Close Combat. In Act 3, after finding Tolman dead in his Gunnar chair, you can pick up Vulnerability and purchase Infernal Cry, Rallying Cry, General's Cry, and Auto Exertion from Clarissa. All of these war cries are for the Earth Shatter transition later. Once you have progressed and completed Lab, you will now have access to permanent mercenaries. GGG added several spots in the campaign that have guaranteed mercenary spawns so long as you are within 10 levels of the zone, the Scepter of God being one of them. There are 2 spawn locations near the entrance of the Scepter where you can farm a mercenary. This mercenary doesn't need to be GG, but I looked for about 15 minutes and found 3 pretty good mercenaries. I'd recommend one of these from my personal list, but truthfully, most options work. Now that you have a mercenary, you should see a good spike in your output. If you have a strong enough mercenary, they should also be able to solo some packs for you easily. Though it may seem enticing to swap now, I think it's still better to continue slamming with a sidekick. You don't get Flame Link, the primary support skill for mercenaries, until near the end of Act 4. Speaking of, there's another farm location in Act 4 in the Grand Arena for a mercenary, but I found it to be pretty inconvenient to farm, and we already have one from the Scepter of God. At the end of Act 4, when you have the option to grab the level 38 support, this is when you should consider swapping to Earth Shatter with the auto exertion setup. Fist of War is a massive boon to your damage and can scale your ruthless, intimidating cry hits with a significant degree. This is also when Earth Shatter starts feeling very strong from personal experience. You'll want Intimidating, Seismic, and General's Cry in your auto exertion 4-link setup. You'll have to drop Herald of Ash and Vitality, and if you don't have the Mana Leech node yet, we'll also have to chug mana pots. From this point, the campaign goes pretty normally. Clear Act 5, and in Act 6, you'll want to make a pit stop at the Ridge. This is when I made my full transition to full support on both my test and ruthless characters. The concept for farming the Ridge for a mercenary is pretty simple. Once you get to the lower prison waypoint, you'll want to head back to the ladder, control-click, and create a new instance in the Ridge. There is a guaranteed mercenary spawn in this area, and it tends to be near the end of the instance. You'll go into the new instance, head out a little bit, see if there's a mercenary. If not, you'll turn around and reset the instance. Do this until you get the mercenary that you want. Beyond this point, follow the POB, and in Act 10, you can farm for another mercenary in the control blocks. In Act 10, in the control blocks, you will head to the waypoint, go to the adjacent square room, see if a mercenary has spawned. If not, you will walk backwards to the waypoint and reset the instance, just like you did with the Ridge. Control-click the waypoint, and go back to the control blocks. Something that you can do here to make the resetting a little faster is use Temporal Rift. Once you get into the room, you can press Temporal Rift and teleport straight back to the waypoint. Hopefully this guide helps you. If it does, leave a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you.